Okay, today I've got a really fun video for you. It's a little bit things that we have talked about in the past, but this time I want to really deconstruct a topic that is so fascinating to all of us, and I really want lots of your input on this. So the title is basically 5 cottage decor style tips or whatever, but I really want to look at those tips through a very, very specific lens. And that is the way those things, those styling tips, those signature touches that we do within our homes makes our homes feel welcoming, feel comfortable, feel hygge, if you will, regardless of what the season is, and very, very appealing and very compelling, not only to our visitors, but to ourselves and our family members and our extended family members as we kind of navigate the spaces of our lives. So what do you say?
I say we do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's start out defining our categories, which might seem kind of strange. But one thing I know for sure, despite these other categories notwithstanding, something that is not very welcoming, it is not very appealing, and that is the presence of flies. And I have flies everywhere in my house right now. I think it's because doors have been left open, and also because, as many of you noticed, I don't have my glass door right now. It is in the door hospital getting fixed. It was a custom-made door and it needs some adjustments. And so because of that, I find myself just leaving the main door open because I like to be able to see outside, and then in come the flies. So one of my favorite things, I wasn't planning on showing you this, but then as we were battling the flies, I thought I would. One of my favorite, most stylish things, I think, is my leather fly swatter. Fanciest fly swatter, yeah. I periodically do disinfect it. I keep it within very, very easy reach because I do have flies all of the time. But this is a really fun thing, I think, because it's unexpectedly good looking. And it's a fun, like a hostess gift, or if you're going to go visit somebody at the lake, or, just kind of for summer entertaining, it's a very fun thing to bring somebody as a little gift. If you're going to be going to somebody's house over the 4th or the Memorial Day weekend and you want to bring a little something, I think this would be a great idea. Okay, but I digress. And when we come back, I'm going to go over the 5 elements I think are really, really important in cottage style, inside or outside, actually not just limited to cottages, but any of our interiors we want to be comfy, cozy, and compelling. Okay, so this was kind of a fun project for me because I decided to look at it through a couple of different lenses. Number one, I started thinking about some of the most comfortable homes that I go into and what really makes them comfortable. And then I also looked at it from the lens of, even on screen, what homes are so appealing to me and seem to be they're just comfortable and welcoming. And I think the classic example of that we all know is Nancy Meyer's interiors on her homes, particularly the holiday. It's complicated and something's got to give. So I looked at it through those 2 lenses. And these are the categories that I came up with of things that serve as both decor, but also can be used for entertaining, for welcoming our guests, and for just adding a little bit of texture and illumination to our lives. Okay, so what are those 5 categories? Well, let's start out with number 1, what is closest to my heart, what is an absolute no-brainer, and that is live plants, live flowers, living elements, any kind of references to nature. So for example, right now I've got some absolutely gorgeous peonies. These came from Trader Joe's. They're beautiful. And if you have followed my channel for any length of time, you know that I pretty much on my corner, on my what I can call my coffee corner of my island, I don't think, Stuart, you've ever been here when I didn't have either fresh flowers or some kind of living plant or some kind of nature reference to the horticultural botanical world. So that is one thing, how we can really use flowers and live plants to really brighten up and beautify our homes. Yes, Stuart.
I was gonna say, and it's different almost every time I come over too.
Yeah, it's different almost every time, and yeah, and that's something that pleases me. It's not just there as a fixture; it's an ever-changing nod to the seasons. So that's something, and we're going to talk about some practicalities of that a little bit more in depth. And by the way, this is a 4-season endeavor. This is a 4-season intentional lifestyle element that we really, I think all of us here in this community here pay great attention to. Okay, secondly, I would say, again, if you follow my channel for any length of time, you know that I absolutely am crazy about wicker, about any of that kind of woven texture, be it wicker, rattan, anything along those lines. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I love the way it expresses seasonality. And I just love the myriad ways it can be used. So that would be my number 2. Number 3 would be the use of glass and crystal in our homes. Again, not just because they are intrinsically beautiful, but because there's so many different ways that we can use them as entertaining devices, as receptacles for little goodies around the house, but also to capture light and really illuminate things. Number 4 would be our use of different things like fabrics, throws, any of those kind of textural things in the way of textiles, whether it's cloth napkins, whether it's a throw over a chair, whether it's the fabric we select for our chairs and our couches and our ottomans, things of that nature. And I think that's really, I think it's very, very important to appeal and to approachability in our interiors. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the 5th element, so stay tuned. Okay, and this is just going to be, my number 5 is going to be a catch-all. We'll just call it miscellany. I thought about calling it animal, vegetable, mineral, but it's just going to be a catch-all for all of those different kinds of things that we are very, very mindful of when we decorate our homes and when we entertain, whether it's just ourselves or it's guests. So in that category, I would put, and this is a very Nancy Meyers thing, you know, large bowls of fruits, of vegetables, of anything, again, that is inherently gorgeous, typically inspired by the garden, that seems to be there for the taking. In other words, if you just want to grab an apple, if you want to grab a nectarine, it is right there for the taking, not just for individual munching, but also it is very, it intimates that something's about to happen. Maybe some strawberry jam. Maybe somebody is make a peach pie. Maybe somebody is going to make a delicious bolognese sauce. Things of that, pots of herbs, such things that imply that something is going to happen that is good and yummy in the kitchen. Then I would also include things like illumination, candles, lamps, be they battery operated or task oriented. I'm not a big fan of overhead lighting except for when we're shooting. All of those kinds of things that just whisper to us, pull up a chair, here is a reading lamp. Pull up a chair, here is a fragrant candle that you can enjoy while you're looking at a book or something along those lines. So those are basically my 5 categories. Tell me what you would put in those categories, but more importantly, because I'm sure I've missed a lot of different things, tell me what categories you would add, because I want to know, inquiring minds want to know, and this will be a really great resource, I think, for all of us when we read each other's comments. So definitely, please tune in with your opinions, your ideas, and things that you do as wonderful decor, entertaining, and really hospitable grace notes around your home. Well, there's all 5 of them. In fact, there's so many, and I'm so passionate about each one of them that we might have to do half of them today on Signature Style Saturday and the other half tomorrow on the garden life, because these are subjects that are near and dear to my heart, but they also have great depth, complexity, and they can be such a personal statement. Okay, I interrupt our regularly scheduled program so I could really give you a couple of things that I have been reading and watching recently. So, my new favorite book is, and I've already told you about this, it's Natural Living by Design, because it so beautifully captures all of the sentiments that we're talking about today. It is just an absolutely gorgeously photographed book. It very, very speaks to my own sentiments regarding the use of natural materials, but also the degree of either maximalism or minimalism in our homes. I tend to be right in the middle. I am not necessarily a maximalist, maybe a little bit in the great room, but in my other areas, I don't want quite so much stuff. So let me know in the comments how you consider yourself to be. But the tension between the two, I think, is just beautifully conveyed in this book by Melissa Penfold. If you don't have it, you need to get it. Not just because of its contents, but just the beauty of the book. I'm really into end papers now since I've been working on my own book. And this is just, it's just yummy. I love the colors of it. I love everything about the elegance of the book. You can see I'm taking lots of notes. But if you don't already have this in your garden or in your garden and decor library, then I highly, highly recommend it because it is just a beautiful book. This is not a sponsor post. I just love this book, and it's my new favorite. So I wanted to tell you about it. The other thing, I've got 2 movies to tell you about. I watched both of them in the past couple of days, and these are off of the radar movies, but I think you need to watch them. One you've probably already seen, and that is The Barefoot Contessa with Humphrey Bogart and Ava Gardner. And I'd never seen the entire movie. And I wasn't even 100% sure what the premise of the movie was. But not only is it eye candy to watch, it's just fascinating, and it's very, very timely in terms of how it looks at the very wealthy, the billionaires, how they behave, how they use people, all of those kinds of things. So I definitely would recommend that again. Unlike what my friend Deborah thought, no, it's not about the Barefoot Contessa Ina Garten. This is the original movie upon which the name of her restaurant was named. The other movie that was so charming and interesting was a movie called Maudie. It's about a Nova Scotia folk artist who is extremely arthritic, and the very unusual romance that she had with someone. And that someone in the movie is played by Ethan Hawke. Cinematically, it is just a beautiful, beautiful movie as it takes place in Nova Scotia. The woman, I want to say her name is Sally Holmes, but I could have that wrong, who's the actress that plays the arthritic artist. It has so many layers of compassion and interest and intrigue and personality interplay. I highly recommend it. I think I watched it on Roku, but it might be on Netflix. I think it was spelled Maudie. We will try to put a link here, at least something so that you can watch it. Highly, highly recommend it. It in and of itself is just a wonderful grace note. And when we come back, we will continue our pilgrimage to explore our personal signature style touches, but also decor and style, interior design touches, I guess, in general. Well, obviously, I and my visitors are not the only ones that want to be in the house right now. Those darn flies are driving me crazy. But let's talk about not only flowers, fresh cut flowers from our garden, or store-bought flowers like these beautiful peonies from Trader Joe's. And by the way, here's a tip. When you have a specific spot in your home, and I think it is incumbent upon all of us when we're creating a beautiful home to have those signature spots, if you will, where we always try to display some kind of fresh flowers. Sometimes I even display weeds, as Stuart will tell you. Sometimes they might be cut branches. Sometimes they might just be beautiful twigs and sticks or forced branches. But I think it's very fun for us all to have those special places in our home where we try to always have one element. I think it makes the concept of having that kind of thing in your home a little bit less intimidating when we have made it kind of a formula. The other thing I would say to that is typically, unless it's like a little bedside bouquet and that's your designated spot, go big or go home. Typically, I think the more dramatic the composition, the more impact. So this one, for example, you can see the minute you walk in the door, it is a focal point from the front door all the way back to my kitchen counter. The other reason I like it, go big or go home, is it also gives me, the cook, a little bit of privacy because it kind of is a botanical barrier between myself and everyone else. And I kind of like that. Sometimes I have more than one element, like these flowers, and now I also have a beautiful fern. Sometimes it might just be one thing, a gorgeous bouquet of amaryllis or something. That kind of changes. But my two tips there are, number one, go big or go home if possible, and number two, define a spot in your home where that is the main attraction pretty much all through the seasons. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about not just the cut flowers, but bringing in potted plants into your home. Whether they are house plants that go outside for a vacation and then you bring them back inside in the winter or for periods of time in the summer, or if they are other things like my topiaries that tend to go in and out based on their cold hardiness, and what we can do to prevent problems like bringing in fungus gnats, roly-polies, bugs, and things of that nature. So when we come back, let's talk about some very, very specific things that we can do, and make sure to have your phone or your camera ready because we've got a very helpful screenshot this about things that you can do to prevent those kind of woes. Okay, now obviously, when you're bringing in a plant from outside, and by the way, my topiaries this time of year tend to rotate in and out because most plants, whether they're a house plant or not, where they really want to be is outside, especially my Myrtle compacta topiaries because they want lots of light. They really like the heat, and that's how they perform their best. But I love the way they look as part of my interior signature style decor, so they float in and out. Typically what I do is I bring them in certain areas. I keep them in for a couple of days, then I rotate them out. I bring in some that have been outside and I exchange them. Does that make sense, Stuart? So. Okay, so that they both get a little reprieve inside in the air conditioning, but then they get outside to have their summer vacation so they get enough light and water. The other thing that I do is I want to make sure that I don't bring in any hitchhikers. Now, truth be told, I think this bothers other people maybe than it bothers me because I am used to indoor-outdoor living as evidenced by the fact that I've got flies everywhere. There's roly-polies. There's, we talked about the earthworms that come into the cottage. My life is very much an indoor-outdoor one. And so because of that, I just take it as as a default that I'm going to have lots of those kind of critters. But if you want to prevent them from coming inside, if you're afraid of spiders or you don't like roly-polies, then Stuart, let's put up our screenshot this right here with these tips. Some of them are common sense, but some of them are not necessarily. So number one, typically what I do is when I bring them in, I give them a really good visual inspection. And that includes, for me, looking at the bottom of the pot because roly-polies are absolutely everywhere right now. And typically when I bring them in, I'll kind of put them in a little quarantine for a while in a certain area, sometimes in my laundry room where I can kind of keep an eye on them. Then when I bring them in addition to the visual inspection on the bottom, on the sides, at the surface, within the gravel, then I bring them in and I just get out the spray end of my kitchen sink. That way, if there are any critters in there, they'll go down into the disposal. Typically, what I also do is this. I give them a little shower in case they are harboring, spider mites or anything like that.
From their vacation.
From their vacation outside. From their vacation outside. If they caught something in the plant hotel. Okay. So I do this to all of them. This is pleasant work. And then here is another indispensable product that I have in my arsenal, and it is these little drainers. And then I just put them up here. And I completely let them drain. I can keep an eye on them again for any kind of critters. If I were much more fastidious about it, or if I were concerned that there would be spiders, fungus gnats, things like that, fungus gnats in particularly, because they can be the most vexing, then I might be a little bit more aggressive. And I might use some kind of soap wash or soap drench that I pour onto the soil to really kind of kill off or at least remove any of the kind of critters that might be in the soil. And for that, typically what I use when I do it is Castile soap. Now, I have Castile soap in my arsenal because it's something that we take when we go camping, because it's a natural organic soap that you can use in river water, things like that. And it's very, very mild and gentle. If you don't have that, then on the screenshot you can use what kind of typical kinds of dishwashing agents that we have that are mild enough, like ivory soap, some of the Dawns. You want to make sure that you don't use something that has antibacterial or degreasers, things like that, but that are gentle. And then you just drench them with that, just really drench the soil, and if you want to, even pour it over the surface of the plant itself to try to remove any critters. Then let them sit for a while, then come back and drench them again with just pure water to rinse out any kind of agents that you don't want to stay in the soil. Now, if that sounds like a lot of trouble, it might be. I typically don't do it on my smaller plants. For me, I find just giving them a hose wash and a visual inspection suffices. What I do it for, or if I'm going to bring in any kind of plants for the long haul, like some of my large olive trees that are in the back, and I might want to put them in the corner of the parlor, any kind of really large succulents that might be outside right now that I bring into the great room for the winter. In that case, I definitely use this technique to rid them of any kind of hitchhiking critters, whether crawling, flying, or squirming. So hopefully that is helpful. A number of you have asked me about that. And yes, there are things you can do. I try to be responsible about it, but I'm also lazy. And so I try to be practical minded about it too. I do it on my ferns, I do it on my topiaries, and it just makes them happy campers as they go in and out on their summer vacation. The houseplants of choice that I'd like to bring indoors right now primarily are ferns, especially rabbit's foot ferns. I have them in all sizes all around the cottage, and obviously my topiaries. But the other thing that I like to have this time of year is dried foliage. And actually that is a 4-season type of thing, depending on what kind of foliage seems to be most appropriate. Now, right now, you may recall that last week I gave all of my salvias, my East Friesland, all of my salvias, a really hard prune. Now, dried lavender isn't the only thing that is beautiful in that kind of bouquet, in that kind of spiky bouquet that gives a little bit of fragrance and just a hint of color. Salvia is too. So when I give them a hard prune like that, you may have thought it was lavender. It looks like lavender. It's a lavender doppelganger. But I just took a large bunch of it and I just plopped it into this Billy Bong basket. Now, one thing that I have found is helpful if you're using any kind of basket and you want to preserve, or it's something that you're going to water in there, you want to preserve its integrity, or you want it to stand up and fly right, is I will put something at the bottom of the basket, and I'm not going to really disentangle all of this to show you, but at the bottom of the basket, I have a saucer that nestles just beautifully, size appropriate at the bottom of that. That gives it integrity on the bottom. It gives it a little bit of weight, and it makes it stand up and fly right. I could also, when I go to the thrift store, I could take my basket and I could look for a glass container that was the perfect size and fit to just drop it into this basket. We'll be talking about baskets and weaves later. To drop into this basket so that I could have fresh flowers in here, or I could have these beautiful dried blooms like this salvia. Now, salvia is not the only thing that can be dried. Let's pause right here. We'll go into my bedroom and I'll show you probably my favorite dried bouquet of all time. So we've just been outside and I showed you what these gorgeous Terra hydrangeas look like when they are in fresh bloom at their peak, and they are absolutely exquisite, but they are equally as exquisite when they dry and they turn this copper color. I've had this bouquet for probably a couple of years because it's just too exquisite for me in any way to get rid of, and so I just cover it, cover it with plastic or something if I'm going to put it in storage. But typically, because it's so beautiful, it resides here in my bedroom because it matches the color. I think it is very impactful, very dramatic. I love the textural component of it that is reminiscent not just of dried blooms, but also of wicker and rattan to me. And I just love, love, love the color. Did I say that I love the color? So that's another example of dried blooms. This time of year, as you are looking at cutting back your perennials, at cutting back maybe pruning some of your trees, your evergreens or whatever, look at any of that foliage that might be potential as a dried bouquet in your home. It could be boxwood clippings, it could be dried hydrangeas, but it could also be something kind of unexpected like that dried salvia.
Is this where poor Stuart kept breaking the pieces off?
No, that was another one. Oh. That was oak leaf hydrangea, Stuart. But thank you for thinking of us. Okay, now here's one that I've got in storage because I don't keep it out year round. But these are dried allium heads that I saved from last year, and they were just too beautiful to discard. So I've got them.
They look really good in here.
Yeah, they still look really good in here, and I'm happy that I saved them because here's my methodology for that and a tip. I typically keep the dried bouquet from the year before in case of a poor performance on that same botanical in the current year. Typically, I discard the one and then I create a new bouquet of the other. In this case, boy, I'm glad I saved these dried allium heads. These are ambassador alliums because, as I told you, my allium performance in the front yard, because of whatever weather event we had, was the first year it hasn't been spectacular. So I have allium head insecurity, and I saved those from last year in case I want to bring them out and use them for some kind of centerpiece in my decor or while I entertain. Okay, at this point in our program, I really, really want your input. We're about ready to start talking about baskets, rattan, any kind of wicker or woven. I just love the texture of that. I love the earthy quality of it, the natural quality of it, and I love the fact that I can find such good things when I go thrifting. And in fact, Stuart, right here, we need to probably put a picture of one of my favorite large baskets, excuse me, that I got for $10 at a thrift store in small town Oklahoma. And okay, yeah, just keep going for it. So this one right here was $10. $10 at a thrift store in small town Oklahoma. This one I got for $10 at Shopgood, one of my favorite stores on Broadway in Oklahoma City. It holds some of my Cool Jobs gloves, and it also includes sidewalk chalk in here for when the kiddos come by, things that I need to grab to have at the ready. And this one actually holds garden tools. This is an umbrella stand. I love it. It holds garden tools, and we kind of just put it out of the way to get out of the way.
That one's more recent
for our filming. Yes. And this one, by the way, I got it online, and it has a tray at the bottom to catch those drips, and that's just a few of the myriad ways that wicker can be used in terms of baskets and things like that. But back to my original shout out that I wanted to do to all of you out there in YouTube land. I want your input. I want to know all of the innovative ways that you use baskets in your home to corral things, to hide things, as a means to entertain, any of those kinds of things, and why. For me, it's a very Serena and Lily vibe. I love it. It simultaneously is kind of country Americana, but also it's got that global feel for, textures and things from the Orient. So I love that. So that's my shout out to you. There are ways that I could probably be using my beloved basketry, and I am not, and I want to know from you your favorite ways to use them. Then I want to do a shout out to my daughter-in-law, Taylor, because one form of basket that I love, in fact, one category of things that I'm kind of obsessed with, and that is trays. And I just got this tray, this seagrass tray at the thrift store at Goodwill last time we went thrift store hunting, and I think it was like $3.99. And I love to use trays for this purpose. When I am serving my guests, I'm carrying beverages from inside to outside. It might be dessert if we're having dessert here in the parlor, and I like having them for that reason. But the point of all of this is that all of these decor touches mean nothing if they aren't there for a reason. And part of the reason is not to just beautify our spaces, but it's to make other people feel welcome. So the flowers are to make people feel welcome and have an aha moment as soon as they come into the cottage and they see a beautiful bouquet. It makes them feel, loved and welcome at home. Nobody does that better than two people I love and adore. My sister Meg in Zionsville, Indiana, and I'm going to share some of her tips for making people feel welcome tomorrow. But the other one is my daughter-in-law, Taylor, who at her relatively young age, in her 30s, she is such a wonderful hostess, entertainer, and you immediately feel welcome when you go into her home for a number of different reasons. For me, one of those reasons is goose, but there are other reasons as well. So, hey, Taylor, I want you to respond here. Have Jamie hold the camera for you or something. And I want you to let me know your favorite ways that you like to make people feel welcome, not only when you entertain, but just on a day-to-day basis. Because if there's one thing I found out for sure that I was rather surprised at when I moved to the cottage on the hill, was the number of people that would just be dropping by casually, unannounced, formally or informally, from absolutely anywhere and everywhere. And I have to tell you, I absolutely love it. It has enhanced the quality of my life significantly. And it also reminds me of the latter part of my growing up years when my parents were retired in Indiana, and my second mom was just wonderful at it. People were just always coming inside and out. It's constant, a flow of people who had open door privileges, who had refrigerator privileges, who just a constant stream of not family, but loved ones who came in and out. And it's that kind of receptivity and that kind of sentiment that I want to convey here at the cottage, that for my special loved friends, that they are welcome here, and I want to provide as many welcoming touches as I can. So when we come back, let's look at other innovative ways that we can use basketry woven elements in our home and in our decor in unique ways and in also traditional ways to make our house attractive and also welcoming.
So the question from Linda was, what are things that I do to make my guests feel welcome, because we love to host? And so my things are all about like ambiance, smells, and lighting. So I always want to make sure that when people come in, the lighting sets the mood. Like I have lamps on, I've got the fire going, I have candle burning, so you really get the smells. And the other thing I love to do is always making sure there is some sort of background music on. Right now we're really into the blues. And so always make sure there's some light background music. Will always make your guests feel welcome.
Okay, here's the thing where trays kind of meet rattan and wicker. I love both of them. And I have really found some amazingly stylish, beautiful, beautiful trays online at a great price point. And I'll put the links to some of them here. But some of my favorites are these kind of laminate trays that have a gold edging. I've got this one in a pattern. There's one down there in blue. And I love the fact that they can contain anything. Quite obviously, they can corral anything, whether it's books, whether it's a tray on a soft ottoman that holds not only books, but maybe your remote, your reading glasses, things of that nature. And then I also love trays in those sizes, which are more scalable and used for serving and in that respect. But also, I love furniture that is also both table and tray. So this is a huge rattan piece, and the rattan tray lifts up and off of its wooden stand, and I can use this outside if I have, say, a large charcuterie board. If I have just something really major that I want to carry outside, I can take this tray up and off of this, and I can just carry it outside. So the other thing about wicker is it's light, it's weather resistant. You can get this wet, and it just has a very, very earthy and I think simultaneously formal and informal vibe to it. And I love that. Here's a couple of other pieces in the parlor. This was, I think I paid $20 for this piece here. And if you'll notice, this is the same finish as the piece underneath the break front. I've used this for all sorts of different purposes. Right now, it's just holding some throws, but I have also used it to hold as an umbrella stand, as a walking stick stand. I've put a piece of marble and glass on top to use it as a small table. It is just eminently flexible, eminently versatile in the ways you can use it in your home. Likewise, I have another large basket over here. And I think I got this one at Mockingbird Manor years ago. Again, it's the same weave and finish as the $10 basket underneath my sideboard. I got this at Mockingbird Manor. I think it was $20. But this at different times has held all sorts of throws. It's held large specimen plants in the corner of my parlor. I have turned it upside down and used it as a table. I have turned it upside down and used it as a plant stand. And I think I also used it at Christmas time, and I just piled all sorts of blankets and things in there, and then I styled it with some wrapped Christmas gifts. So there's just so many different ways that you can use all sorts of wicker and those kind of textured elements in your home. When we come back, I want to show you a couple of innovative ways to use it. Well, even your woven chapeau, your Panama hats, your sun hats or whatever. I love the weave on them. And this is one of the tips in my new book coming up. They can simultaneously be practical and wearable and functional, but also decorative when you have them on a hat stand or you have them on some kind of hook suspended from anything in your home, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's by the door to grab and go as you're going out into the garden and you want some protection for your face. I remember doing this when I was in college, and I had a whole wall of straw hats behind my single bed when I was young, because I wanted something to decorate it, and I just had a bunch of inexpensive straw hats. So they too, straw hats, straw bags, straw baskets, straw anything, can be both functional and decorative, but also very much grab and go as you're going out the door. Now, sometimes my wicker and rattan and seagrass kind of stresses me because I've got all sorts of different woven materials, and then I wonder, do they need to match? Do they need to be the same finish? Do I really care? And I decided, indeed, I did not care, and I needed to quit being so fastidious and less matchy-matchy about it. So now you will notice that there's all sorts of woven materials in the cottage in general, and even outside. So just in this little vignette right here, just in this little snapshot, I've got a Goodwill basket right here. That is just a low and shallow basket tray that is carrying, and I'm impinging upon one of my categories here, but all sorts of fabric napkins, fabric placemats, different towels, all different things in kind of, at this point, my characteristic blue. Then underneath here, look, I have,
even see underneath.
Yeah, underneath here, I have woven placemats that I can just pull out from underneath that. I also like the fact that all of this is kind of on display. It's very functional. It's ready for entertaining. It's very welcoming, but it's also on display. Then underneath it, I have some seagrass baskets that are hiding, and I'm not going to dismantle this, but they are hiding two speakers. They're hiding my speaker and my modem for my wireless, my internet, all of that kind of thing. And they're great for that because they're permeable. So they're permeable, they're lightweight, and I can easily just access them if I need to service them in any way. These are two of my favorite baskets. I got these at Target years ago. I have two of them. These also are holding different kinds of textiles. And this basket was the inspiration for my resin baskets that I had made for QVC, and I'm going to still try to research that to see how I can get more of those baskets, because outside they're wonderful. All weave doesn't have to be natural. On occasion, when practical, it can be synthetic. So I love that. Now, do you see another layer, Stuart? Another layer of a nod to
Down
weave.
there? Not yet. No, tell me what I'm
It's
missing.
so obvious it could bite
Oh!
you. The rugs. Okay. So the rugs are also woven. The rugs are also woven. These are inexpensive seagrass rugs that I buy online. They can get dirty. They can get mucked up. I can come in here and occasionally have my garden boots on. And because they're relatively inexpensive, I can replace them if need be. And I've got them in different weaves. They don't necessarily all have to match. But I love that. And I also love the way that they can be layered. So I can layer one rug on top of another. Now, the reason I really have them is because they protect the floors. And these floors, I love them. They're blonde wood, but because the cottage is small and because we get so much traffic, they really can get mucked up. So all of these seagrass rugs, whether they are runners or they're large rugs like this, or in this case, this is kind of a faux sisal. This one was custom made. They all have kind of that same feel that is both formal and informal, and I really, really like that. And then another element of weaving and woven in here are my bar stools. Now I think I got these from Grandin Road. These are leather and wood, but I love them because, again, they have that same kind of woven feel. So it speaks to the aesthetic that I've got going here in the parlor and the kitchen. And I really, really just love that. And then there are different nods to weaves all over the place in here. I've got baskets, a bunch of them that I got in Bali. I love this particular kind of rattan weave. I've got, what other kinds of weave do I have? Oh, I've got more trays.
Well, this one's super tight and organized.
Yeah, tight and organized, and it's very similar to this. So I've got these kinds of trays. You guys are getting some of the behind the scenes stuff here. I've got these kind of trays. I bought this wonderful lamp at Mockingbird Banner years ago. It is also woven. And then this right now is my favorite woven thing because it kind of marries two different things that I like. It mirrors or marries a woven rattan tray and a thrift store find, which is a marble, I don't know what it is, a marble hot plate or something. And then this, I broke the cake stand that went to this. So then this nestles on top of this, and it becomes not only a decor thing, it's something like you might see in a bakery, but it's very, very welcoming, as Stuart will tell you, because often I don't do a lot of cooking or a lot of baking, but I do lots of muffin baking. And typically there are some kind of muffins underneath here, and it's right by the coffee pot, very welcoming, very engaging. And at any point in time, anyone can come over here and make themselves a cup of coffee and maybe carry it to someone on one of the other trays that I have here in the kitchen. Yeah, I've actually got 2 of these, and Hubs and I, if we're going to eat in front of the large TV in the great room, we will use these for our dinner service. Okay, when we come back, I'll show you a couple more trays, and then I think we'll wrap it up for today, and the remainder will come tomorrow. And my office, lastly, is just filled with wicker. Old wicker that's very sentimental to me, new wicker, Goodwill thrifted wicker, all sorts. You had to move wicker out of the way. Yeah, to shoot. So the wicker pieces in here, and my office is a mess, forgive me, but the wicker furniture in here, the 2 chairs, the little table, this large table, all of this belonged to my second mom. She had it on a sun porch outside. I even have a wicker filing cabinet. I have wicker storage. I'm sorry. I love it. I might need an intervention. And then let's just finish up with a new book that obviously caught my attention for many, many reasons. I haven't even looked through it yet. Rattan.
You knew you'd love it, though.
I knew I'd love it, though. I love the way it looks, because look at the spine on that. Yeah. So anyhow, please remember, I want this to be a very participatory video. Please tell me all of the different ways that you bring plants and flowers into the house, that you use wicker and woven things, that you make people feel welcome. Do you spray your dried flower arrangements with hairspray? Any of those kinds of tips that we may not be familiar with, I want you to share them in this community right here, because it's all about community and making people feel welcome here on the LV channel. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on Signature Style Saturday. I hope you learned a little bit. I sure had fun. It's things that we've talked about before, but I think sometimes, whether it's through the lens of loved ones or a Nancy Meyers movie, it's fun to deconstruct things that we love and practice. You guys take care. Well, here's my high-low outfit of the day, starting with my earrings. I love these. They're so light and delicate, and I think they cost all of 50 cents to $1. I got them many, many years ago, and they always have kind of a Spanish vibe to me. My top is lily silk. It's just kind of a washable silk t-shirt, if you will. My breeches are J. Peterman. I really like them. When I first got them, I didn't wear them at all, and now I find I wear them a lot. And when I started thinking about not wearing them in a dressed up way, but in a more casual way, not only the bottom, but the top, I really realized I started wearing these kinds of clothing a lot more because they're light. I don't get hot in them. They breathe, and they're, like I say, just eminently cozy. My belt, I don't remember where. I've had it for years and years and years. I think I had it when I was in college. I'm not really sure. My bracelet, this is an Atrios tile bracelet. This silver one is a bangle that my husband got me on one of his adventures, and I don't remember where I got this other one. So that's kind of that. My breeches, I think I said, are J. Peterman. And then my shoes. These may be unlikely kind of shoes to wear with this outfit, but when I saw the strings and they matched so well, and I thought, well, you don't really see them anyway. And I just walked, and I just walked to the grocery store, so I have to show you these here now because I have my Bomba socks on.
Are they Merrill? What are they?
And then these are Cujo yardwear shoes. Yardwear shoes. And they are also great to hike in, and they are also great to walk in. So when I walked to the grocery store, they were very, very comfortable. And then look at these cute little Bomba socks. Very springy. Yeah. Very, very springy. So there you go. There is my high-low outfit du jour.